The document simply concludes that Earth has been for long under survey from several extraterrestrial civilizations. Robert Dean's current projects are directed toward gaining immunity for ex-military personnel who may shed some light on the UFO issue, enabling them to testify before a congressional hearing without fear of losing their pensions or a prosecution. And from one desert to another, retired Command Sergeant Major Robert O. Dean. Hello, Mr. Dean, and welcome to the Veritas show. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you.
It is such a pleasure and an honor to have you on, sir. I have received requests from our audience to interview you all year long. But after your presentation at the Barcelona Exopolitics Summit, I really got flooded with requests, and it's a highlight for me, as well as your fans around the world who are listening. You really opened many eyes there in Barcelona. Why do you think your message and presentation was so powerful?
Well, I wasn't aware that it really was that powerful. I got the impression that I was well received at Barcelona. It was very gratifying to see the turnout there at the conference, and it was also very encouraging to see the number of people who came up after my presentation and not only thanked me, but indicated their own interest in the phenomenon. I find it gratifying that particularly young people seem to be aware. They seem to be paying attention, and that's my hope for our future, that the young people will come along and insist on some honest answers from their government and do their own research and literally dig into what I consider to be the greatest story in human history. I must be honest with you and tell you that ever since I got involved with this thing back in 1964, I haven't been able to walk away from it. I'll be honest, I think I actually became obsessed with it when I realized the implications of this thing. The fact that there are advanced extraterrestrial intelligences, they're literally in our midst, Mel. They're all around us, and they've been all around us and involved in us for literally the beginning of our history. And to me, that's a hell of a big story, and I can't leave it alone. I can't walk away from it. Hell, I'm going to be 81 on my next birthday, and I've often thought, why the hell don't I sit down and retire and be a responsible retired gentleman, smoke my cigars, drink my good bourbon, and the hell with the world. But I can't do it. I did that for 5 years, and I was encouraged and prodded and literally threatened by a lot of friends to get out and start speaking publicly again. I just got back from a conference in the Bay Area up in San Jose last weekend. And again, I was encouraged by the response and by the fact that many, many more people are paying attention. And I think that's a good sign, and it's a hopeful sign. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, actually, and I'm going off tomorrow to a conference in Burbank.
That's right.
Yeah, they've been sponsored. Carrie and Bill. Are you familiar with the Camelot Project?
Absolutely. They'll be with me in a few weeks to do a show with me.
Yeah, well, Carrie Cassidy and Bill Ryan are delightful people. And they're putting on a conference starting Saturday, the day after tomorrow, in Burbank. And I'm hopeful that the turnout there will be fairly well.
And I know that it will. I want to get a question out of the way, Mr. Dean. In your opinion, why has the secrecy about UFOs, the truth embargo, continued for over 60 years? What are the real reasons?
Well, there is not a reason, Mel. There are a number of reasons. First of all, when the reality impacted our military at the end of World War II, it scared the hell out of them, frankly. Our professional military had just concluded a terrible, terrible war. And they're confronted with this reality, this undeniable reality, that there are an advanced intelligences here, coming from God knows where, and they had no idea what their motives might have been, and they responded with the typical military response, hey, we're paranoid, so let's let's look at the worst possible thing that could happen, and let's try to prepare ourselves for it. And I think that was the initial response. They responded in fear because they really didn't know what they were addressing. And then it became more apparent over the years of the implications and the scope of what they were really addressing. And that scared the hell out of even more of them, I mean, when you're confronted with intelligences from God knows where, with advanced technology that was so far beyond anything we had, your response is to be very cautious. And I think their response was probably normal back then. And then, of course, they conducted the Brookings study in 1959-60.
Right.
And that report concluded that if we were to encounter advanced extraterrestrial intelligence, that the response would probably be not to let the masses know about it. And I think the Brookings report, which was published and presented to Congress in 1961, I think that Brookings study actually became national policy. And I think to some extent it still is.
Is it because it would shatter our paradigms, religions, our science? Is that the main foundation for the Brookings Institute's report?
Well, it won't just shatter the foundations of science. It'll shatter society itself if the true story were to come out. You see, I don't think the true story, the whole story, is going to come out within the next 50 to 100 years, for God's sake. I used to believe, and I spent a lot of time and effort and energy over the last 20 years to try to get Congress to pay attention. One of my plans and hopes was to get Congress to pay enough attention to, form some committees, hold some hearings, grant congressional immunity to retirees in particular, and get the story out. Because I believed for many, many years that the American people not only had a right to know the truth, they had a need to know the truth. But over the years, Mel, my views have changed a little. The more I've learned, and the more I've learned of the absolute scope and the vastness of this reality, the more I've concluded that maybe there are masses of people who are not ready for this. To give you an example, just look at the theological problem on our planet right now. Good Lord, man, we've got, Muslims butchering Christians and Jews butchering Muslims, and Hindus and Muslims butchering each other in India and Pakistan, and then, good Lord, you've even got Muslims butchering Muslims with the Shiites and the Sunnis at each other's throats.
Right.
You've got a worldwide problem here that the last thing they really need is to have something as vast as this reality dumped in front of them. I don't know whether the masses of people, Mel, could deal with that.
But one could say that if disclosure were to occur worldwide and their paradigms actually shatter to oblivion, and then all of a sudden their foundations of religion may not be what they were used to. If everything changes and we turn into one consciousness, wouldn't that be enough justification to do it?
Well, your point is well taken. And from my original point when I began this thing, I always did believe, and I still do believe, that the realization, if people could grasp the realization of this whole story and would grasp who they are and what they are as human beings and realize that spiritually we're all the same. We're all human beings with a divine spark within us, that I kept thinking that this knowledge itself would bring about an expansion of consciousness among the human race that might hopefully bring us together. And that was a dream of mine, and it still is, that the day will come when the wars will cease and people will grasp that they are brothers and sisters, and we're all one family. We're all one members of one human race. I think that will happen. I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but, I'm not going to be around that much longer. But I'm hopeful, and I am very optimistic about the future of the human race. I think the human race is going to make it, because as I have jokingly said over the years, we've got some good friends in high places. No pun intended. We really do have some advanced intelligences out there that are essentially benevolent. And I think they do seem to care about whether we're going to make it or not.
And I think your message resonates so much with the youth because you truly speak from the heart. At your age, you keep moving forward, you keep releasing information and letting us know that the paradigms that we have may not be the reality that we grew up with. But we have MUFON, exopolitics, conferences all over the world. But are we any closer to disclosure, or is it the intelligence apparatus feeding us this information?
It sounds like you may have attended one of my presentations not too long ago. I've been having a little fun with some old friends, and I put together what I call a parable, the parable of the three Stephens and the apocalypse. And
you're not talking about Stephen Bassett, Stephen Greer, and somebody else, right?
And Steven Spielberg.
Okay.
And my point, Mel, is that I know Bassett and I know Greer, and I've known them for years, and they're lovely people. They're good friends. They were both at the conference with me over in Barcelona.
Yes.
And Bassett and Greer have been, thumping the Bible, as it were, to get disclosure, to get the government to hold a news conference, to get the government to tell the truth, demand the government answer the people's questions, blah, and on and on and on and on. And I don't think it's going to happen, Mel, because that's not the way government works. I cannot even conceive of somebody in government, the president or somebody, saying, hey, guys, we're going to have a news conference here, and we're going to fill you in on some interesting bits of information that we've kind of kept from you over the years. Yeah, how about that? Alien intelligences are in our midst, and they've been here for a long, long time. How about that? Now, weather and sports next, you see. Blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
Hey, no, that ain't going to happen. That's not the way government